Yeah, regardless, I agree with what some people were saying that there's a large debate whether or not that it was worthwhile. Um, I feel that Ghostblade is a fine item on Lucian, but it's not ideal.
Yeah, I mean, I
It's a
favor
little
Infinity.
gimmicky.
It is, but I favor Infinity Edge myself because I feel like it's more consistent as an item, and also it just offers you the crit benefit on passive anyhow, and the stats it gives you are absolutely fantastic.
Hmm.
So
Oh yeah,
I
it does give good stats, and I know a number of streamers were gaining an interest in it, at least.
mhm.
Can you spectate via me now?
Right now, you still appear as in Champion Select.
You should still be able to spectate.
I am not.
Okay. Well, we'll wait till it goes through. I'm just going to go over picks now that they are finalized and locked in. On the blue team, we have Draven, Nami, Renekton, Anivia, and Udyr. That is versus a Blitzcrank, Elise, Lucian, Aatrox, and Syndra. So as far as overall picks there, Lucian Blitzcrank is going to have very, very high kill potential because if Lucian's played properly, his burst early game is phenomenal. You just have to use your passive properly and use your auto attack resets, and Blitz
Mhm.
can definitely keep them in range long enough for that to go off. Also worth realizing that Draven, you can see his axes and where they're going to land on the ground. If he tries to catch every axe, that sets up a pretty easy Blitzcrank hook. Nami plus Draven, that's a very high kill potential lane if you're landing bubbles consistently. But versus Blitzcrank Lucian, I think they're going to have enough disengage to make that work for them. Looks like that's a top lane Elise versus Renekton. One of the few top laners who can actually beat Renekton. So that'll be interesting to watch. It's pretty much a skill matchup. Whoever plays it better, whoever gets an advantage.
Mhm.
Um,
I would say that for that particular lane matchup, that Elise has to really watch out for her mana management because that is not something that Renekton has to worry about himself.
Completely true. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is
She's actually pretty mana hungry. That
she
changed a while back.
early on is really surprising actually because I've played Elise quite a few times myself top, and I was actually like really surprised at how little I could do really early on into the game. I find that you really have to survive through those initial first 6 levels until you get the second level of your ultimate,
A
and
lot
then
of
it
it boils
starts.
down to effective use of her spider form.
Yes.
If you're harassing mostly in spider form, then it's very easy. If you're constantly just trying to, oh well, I'll just E every time it's off cooldown, or wait, is it? Yeah, it is. I don't even remember. It's Q, right?
Huh?
Q is the percentage health damage.
Yes.
Uh, they've consistently increased the cost of it over and over again.
Yeah.
So at this point, it is very difficult for her to do much as a ranged champion. And if she goes
Yeah.
in range to do proper spider form harass, Renekton's going to be able to turn that around very quickly.
Exactly. Yeah, that's gonna be an interesting lane to watch.
Syndra versus Anivia. Syndra has so much kill potential there. That being said, she's going to be able to burst her. Oh, egg form. I can't do anything now.
Yeah, that's exactly. It's kind of like the LeBlanc syndrome, where once your combo's done, you can't do anything else, basically.
Exactly. She is going to be very snowbally, and if she gets an advantage, good for her. But every time that passive is up from Anivia, I just feel like she's going to overextend, be like, okay, let's go in and fight. And then, oh, well, I can't finish her off.
I think that's something that Anivia could really do in that case is just survive out the burst and then, use that pushing power to pin Syndra and siege Syndra against her tower, essentially.
That is a valid strategy. That being said, Syndra actually has very, very strong wave clear.
Hmm.
You build an early chalice on her. Especially versus a strong pusher like Anivia. You'll probably build an early chalice, and if you do that, you can essentially just one-shot the wave. So Anivia uses more mana to accomplish the same amount of push. You should be able to spectate now, I believe.
Yes, I will be.
Perfect.
I'm gonna get into this game and get on semi-live with all of you guys. The 3-minute delay is still applicable to you, right?
Yes.
Okay, I just hope that we're not going to be spectating at different intervals, because that would be quite strange. Okay, I see the loading screen right now.
Yeah, that's where we're at.
Okay, I'm personally very excited to see how this Lucian plays, because Lucian has been one of my favorite picks currently, and I've been playing him to thin and back for the last ever since he came out, essentially.
It's funny because Lucian was considered so weak and still is
Oh my
considered weak
God.
by most North American players. He is like #1 pick in Korea right now.
Oh, I know, and I have known ever since he came out that he was fantastic. His passive is probably my favorite out of any AD carry in the game.
I completely agree. And Lucian top, no one does it.
Lucian top occupies the same spot for me as Karma top, actually, and how niche it is. And
Karma
how...
top is phenomenal.
Oh my god, I love it. I absolutely love it. But Lucian top is similarly very powerful.
The ranged harass and consistent damage output is amazing. Like there's no competing with it.
Oh, actually, like Renekton is one of my favorite picks to go against as Karma because he's such a strong contender top right now, and Karma absolutely wrecks him. Absolutely.
Yes, yeah, if played well. I've come across some really good Renektons, and I'm like, oh god, why did I do this matchup? And then I realized, wait, I just have to actually think about my combos.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
What about Karthus top? 2 mana hungry, no escapes, very, very squishy. Karthus has no laning phase. The reason that Karthus was picked before was because of his ult and his phenomenal late game, like post 40-minute late game. That's why he was such a beast in Season 2.
They've nerfed
Also
it
because...
quite a bit, though.
Sorry?
They've nerfed that quite a bit,
Oh, they've
though.
nerfed it insanely. It also used to be that his W, his giant wall, did percentage reduction to armor and magic resist. Or no, it was flat reduction, wasn't it?
I actually don't remember that. I think it
They've
was
changed
flat
it so
reduction.
many times. It was percentage, then it was flat, then it was percentage again. All I know is that late game Karthus, he would land a W and then he'd two-shot you. That was literally how he worked. He landed his W, and that was back when armor stacking was actually an effective strategy. And if you had like 200-300 armor, you were, for all intents and purposes, completely unkillable except to true damage. And Karthus countered that so heavily with his armor reduction and magic resist reduction. Unfortunately, though, Karthus has always lost mid lane, and they've nerfed him so much more. They've nerfed his ult, they've nerfed his W, they've nerfed his tankiness. Like, they've nerfed absolutely everything about him. I don't feel he's worth playing anymore, unless you're, like, the best Karthus player in the world.
I'm not certain about that. I feel that with a competent team built around him, he could do some incredible damage. That ultimate is still powerful no matter which way you look at it.
The ultimate's still powerful, but when you're picking a champion who is countered by quite literally every common mid lane pick in the game,
that is fair.
and you have a weak laning phase to begin with, and you rely on the game lasting longer than 30 minutes to reach really your main potential, that's a really risky pick. And especially in solo queue, it's all about consistency.
So, Pro, I'm just wondering, is there any sort of format you want us to use to spectate this? Do you want me to comment on one team specifically, or are we just going free-for-all for this?
A little bit of both. I generally place most of my focus on mid lane and bot lane, seeing as those are the lanes I sort of main. I'm not very good at top lane, so yeah.
Okay.
If you notice a good fight or a good play, just let me know. And what we can do is we can actually pause and rewind.
Okay.
So if you notice a really good play, just mention it, and I'll stop talking and we'll jump over to that. In the meantime, I generally try and focus my comments on item build, how aggressively they're playing, and how they're managing map objectives. So things like, okay, you just got a kill, you could translate that into a free tower, then you could translate that into a free dragon. Just sort of how you cycle through the map, that's sort of my key focus, because that's a lot of players don't realize how you need to cycle through the game.
I completely feel that. I feel that junglers are more aware of those sort of objectives immediately, because, I mean, they're the roamers, right? They're the ones who capture the objectives, so I actually really like jungling myself, so I might bring a little more attention to that myself. I like the Udyr pick, because I feel that he's a champion that's not very popular currently.
I also like that he started Doran's Blade.
As Udyr, that's very interesting.
It's actually a pretty common start, especially on aggressive junglers like this. Aatrox has done the same thing. If you have a strong leash, and you want to snowball early, you can actually go that Doran's Blade, and you usually do it because you have a strong enough leash and enough sustain to survive the first 2 buffs, and then you want to land an immediate gank that you need to be able to snowball with.
Yes, with Aatrox, I've seen it before and I've done it myself, because, I mean, Aatrox is the king of sustain, essentially. On Udyr, I know he's a very safe jungler. However, I'm not sure whether or not I'd actually go with that route with him.
Look at what he's doing. He's going right to red buff.
Yeah, no, I like that aggression right there.
Because, he second-guessed himself for a second, and that might let him get caught out.
A little bit dangerous, though, against an Aatrox, because Aatrox can start red. So, I mean, there should have been more ward coverage, definitely.
I agree. If you wanted to do that, I would have suggested have your support ward. I also would say, if you're waiting this long to go to red buff, wait and then kill Aatrox in the bush. Like, you're going to get caught out here.
There's Aatrox right now, so I think one of them is going to have to smite. Oh, and the Udyr got out with it. I think he's going to pop the passive. Oh, there goes the ghost. And is the Q going to come in? No.
And I think they're going to be able... He should be able to stay and kill that, but Syndra's on the way, so he's going to try and retreat.
Yeah, no,
he could have easily popped that with an extra Q.
Yeah, I agree. No, there could have been a kill there, but at the same time he decides to play it safely. I don't know why he did not recall right there. And
that does seem odd. Maybe he's trying to catch Lucian out. Maybe they caught some vision there. Also worth noticing, Lucian has been burst down very, very heavily bot lane. They just landed a blitz hook, but that is going to get Lucian killed.
Oh, and there's the Nami bubble.
Perfect bubble.
Oh, good barrier, but it was not enough.
So I didn't actually catch what caught Lucian that low, but as a support blitz, you need to be aware of what your grabs are going to do. You just grabbed a Draven into an essentially 0 health AD carry.
So it's worth noting that the Renekton also just killed these up top.
It is. We also have our free kill over to Udyr. He stayed in that jungle a long time, and it ended up working out for him because he knew that Aatrox needed to clear his red buff. I think that's why he stayed. He's saying, hey, Aatrox has to clear this, or...
I find that it's a bit of a gamble, though, because at the same time, Aatrox could have put a little pressure on the other lanes, just recall, get it held back, and, you know, just continue on his usual path.
I'm assuming, though, that he did that because he caught a little bit of vision of him sneaking around the jungle. So then he said, okay, I'm not leaving until I get this kill. It's a lot of time used, but you kept their jungler busy that entire time so your lanes aren't suffering any pressure because of it, and you ended up getting a kill in the long run.
I feel, personally, as a jungler, I would have... You know that Aatrox had to recall anyway, or had to clear, so no pressure would have been done to the other lanes anyhow. I feel that this could have been time better spent, or farming into your advantage even more at this point.
That's fair. Either would work well. I just feel that in the long run, he did make the right choice. It was a gamble, though, for sure.
Yeah.
Mid lane here, Syndra has 9 CS. I think that's just a mechanics issue, because looking at the lane, it's not like she's being bullied out. I would suggest to her that maybe it's the first time she's played Syndra, but maybe practice it in a custom game first. Because you need to figure out those auto attacks.
Syndra is definitely a very high-skilled cap character. I've even had troubles myself.
It's a very high skill cap character. Good flash. I think... Oh, no, Udyr's not going to quite get it. If Udyr landed that stun, that was a free kill. That being said, though, she's just missing her auto attacks where she's not quite in range, she's hitting it and it lives with 10 health, that sort of thing. Whenever I pick up a new mid laner, I try and play them in a custom game or two and just stand there in CS for 5 to 10 minutes. It might be a little bit boring, but it's going to serve you well in the long run.
Good play by Nivea. There you go.
I'm going to rewind and watch that here.
That was a very, very good wall, just preventing that and going to the ignite. I'd also like to bring attention to top lane. Renekton is being very good at dashing in and dealing some damage and then dashing out immediately to avoid those tower hits and just sieging the hell out of Elise with some very effective plays.
Completely agree, and that's why Renekton is such a dominant top laner right now, because he can do things like that. Riven is much the same degree, except that she focuses more on aggressive snowballing. Great bubble bot lane. I was actually fast forwarding, so I have to rewind that now. It looks like Blitz is just a little too aggressive. Blitz is walking in here to try and land a melee range knockup, but you're versus a Draven Nami. If you get in melee range, Nami's just gonna crap on you, and Draven's gonna do so much damage. Draven is a weak laner right now in comparison to what he was before, but that doesn't mean he does no damage. He's still gonna be able to kill you.
I actually, having played a lot of Lucian myself and figured out that his burst potential is actually quite phenomenal, Draven and Corki are two of the laners that I can pretty much even out on the amount of burst that Lucian can dish out. So if your opponent is in any way competent, like on a similar sort of like skill ceiling, you're gonna have a hard time as Lucian just because they can. Draven especially can just stream out those auto attacks and really outburst you.
Oh, completely agreed. That's what I was saying, is that while Draven's early game isn't nearly as beastly as it used to be, walking directly into his face is going to get you killed.
Oh yeah.
You're just mentioning there, Draven did a very good dive, just chasing in the Lucian, getting that free kill. That's, again, just knowing your champion, knowing sort of where people are on the map, and just following it through for a kill. That's really all it boils down to.
And there's the egg form. I see the Udyr. Ooh, maybe Aatrox is gonna come around and try to finish off that Anivia. Ooh, I think he's gonna get her.
If I were Udyr, I'd be trying to set up blue buff, and it looks like that might be what they're trying to do here.
There's the Q. I know Blitzcrank is coming too. Flashes but misses the pull.
Yeah, great knock-up there by Aatrox onto the Anivia.
Very good ultimate by Nami and Draven. Wow.
Yeah, that was absolutely flawless.
Very good communication and reading by the blue team.
I would have wanted them to go in on that Aatrox, actually. My reason being is that he just burnt his passive, and Draven has the mana to do his knock-up, which will cancel his jump. I think if they maybe just went in a little bit further, he only needed about 2 auto attacks to finish off the Aatrox after his revive passive. I think they could have picked it up.
Anivia's actually caught on that kill though. She's been very, very good at zoning out her opponent Syndra with her Qs and her ultimate. Yeah, so pretty much the situation where I said that Anivia would essentially siege Syndra against her tower and just like completely control her with some clever wall placements is happening, and that's something that Syndra can't exactly handle due to how fragile she is and Anivia's sheer damage output.
Agreed. First tower going over to blue team here. Renekton just constantly pushing this in, bullying Elise out, and looks like purple team's going to catch him out here though.
Oh,
great stun by Syndra. Great follow-up knock-up. They didn't overlap their CC, and that's something I always try and keep an eye out for. Syndra doesn't have ult though.
Very clever escape.
Syndra had ult there. She could have easily finished him off. Unless my screen is bugged, she had ult.
No, it looked like she had ult on my screen as well, so...
That was a little bit of a misplay. She could have easily finished that off. Either way, good escape by Renekton jumping over to minions. I just think it could have been a little bit better played by purple team. They should have been able to catch him out there and get a kill. Bot lane here, we've got a lot of damage going in. Draven just pummeling him.
Oh, taken by Nami, but still.
It was a good ult by Nami. I might have angled it a little bit better so that it hit Blitzcrank as well. Ended up taking the kill, still worth it though. You're going to get the tower from that as well. I would also suggest... No, Blitzcrank is backing off. I would have suggested trying to zone Blitzcrank and maybe get a kill on him as well after the tower. But Blitz is smart, backed up.
At the same time though, Draven is so far ahead that he doesn't need to be aggressive at this point. He can just bide his time, farm into his advantage, and completely knock out Lucian out of this game. So, it's not... you know, his passivity currently is not exactly a bad thing.
No, definitely not. He is about 20, 30 CS, actually, so yeah, 30 CS ahead right now, and he's 4-0-3. It looks like they're doing a 2-man dragon with a good pink ward coverage just so that they know they're not going to get smite stole. If you are an AD carry or your smite's down, anything like that, always make sure you have it warded, because if not, they can just jump over the wall and smite it. And there's nothing more depressing than being like, oh, that was a free objective that we gave
out right there.
Yeah, Blitzcrank was trying to get vision onto the dragon. Great ward by Nami to have that vision, both in the tri-bush and the exit of the blue buff there.
Now that you're speaking about vision, I'd like to point out that blue has some amazing ward placements all over the enemy territory.
I agree. Very aggressive wards on both sides. Renekton actually ended up getting a kill 2v1 top lane. That was amazing, actually. So what he did there is he knew Elise had nothing to jump to, so he just stood still and started auto-attacking Aatrox instead. As soon as he came down, he saved his Q because he wasn't in danger of dying. He then did his lovely little swirly pool and got the extra healing from it, killed Elise, and then turned on it and got the extra kill onto Aatrox. And turned that into a tower as well. And that tower is made possible because he has their entire top jungle warded. He knows that he's in no danger of being counter-ganked.
Oh no, absolutely not, especially not with Renekton, who has so much mobility too.
Exactly. Yeah, when you're in a position like that, though, it's always worth looking at the map and not getting cocky and being like, okay, if they were to show up as their entire team, what would happen? And looking at the map, okay, well, I'm going to see them coming through a ward, so keep pushing. Looks like Lucian's picking up a little bit of jungle farm. I like that, simply because he's so far behind and he can't afford to go into that lane right now. He's trying to get any little way back into the game that he can.
I'd like to point out that I'm not a big fan of the Boots Rush on Lucian.
No, I don't like Boots Rush on any AD carry.
I definitely believe that this hurt him more than helped, especially against Draven that was so far ahead to begin with.
I completely agreed. Also worth mentioning, that team fight there was just a little bit sloppy. Aatrox missed his knock-up, then Blitz missed his hook. It was just, you need to go in as a combined effort. Let Blitz engage, just walk into them. That sort of forces them into a specific position. Great stun by Syndra, though. She landed the stun across both of their team. Unfortunately, though, Blitz still missing his hooks.
Maybe some good defensive bubbles right there.
Udyr's actually looping around behind them. I want them to turn this into a free kill.
Oh, and there it is. The dash has gone out. They're going to kill Lucian. I mean, sorry.
I would expect Udyr to have turned on to Syndra, but the team was able to get in range and finish that off. Great job on their part, collapsing in there, picking up the kills one at a time. It's interesting, they actually managed to get all 3 of those kills onto Draven.
Now Renekton already at the final top tower.
Yeah, this game's going a little one-sided here.
Yeah.
Good split push here, though. They're using the Renekton pressure top to say, okay, we can just shove in mid, then we're going to cycle bot, take that tower as well. They're pinging blue buff on the enemy side, so I'm assuming it's about to spawn. Or not.
I'd just like to say extremely good map pressure by the entire blue team. I mean, every single lane has pretty much farmed extremely effectively. Renekton is just being a huge bully, and a factor that Purple Team just cannot ignore anymore. He might go down right there, or he might not.
No way for them to kill him. Again, I think that, again, boils down to you're not focusing them as a team.
I'm not sure how I feel about this. Oh, is he actually going to be able to
He's going to get the kill. He's going to get 2 of those kills at least, maybe 3. Aatrox eventually finishes it off, but that is not worth it for Purple.
Oh no. No.
They need to be combining their CC in an effective way. Syndra needs to lead with her stun, then Aatrox can jump in on top. I would then combine that with an Elise stun. That's about 4 seconds, 5 seconds of CC that he's not going to be able to tank through that. But if you just jump into a bush like that, he's going to turn around and kill you all.
I like the use of the Tiger form for Udyr, actually. I know that a lot of people prefer going Phoenix stance, but personally I really enjoy the Tiger stance.
I feel that Phoenix is completely outdated right now. Blade of the Ruined King is so strong, Hydra is so strong. Phoenix is fine for AoE teamfights, but that's not what jungles are specializing in right now. They're specializing in getting in and getting out.
I'm just saying that with the kind of team that they have, I'm actually surprised that Udyr has decided against going Phoenix stance, because they have Anivia, they have Renekton, they have Nami, they have a lot of AoE power on this team as it is.
Given their AoE power, though, I would want him to get in range, get them low so that Draven can pick them off, or that he can just zone them personally. I think he's more of a, I'm going to get to your back line and you can't ignore me sort of champion, almost like Renekton is, so he doesn't need to focus on AoE. Again, that's personal bias, I just dislike Phoenix stance in general, but I just don't think it was really needed. They have enough AoE. Yeah, they caught out Lucian a little bit there, but they have 3 people. They should be able to turn this around if they combine their CC well enough.
Maybe...
Syndra's not managing her balls very well. Oh, good collapse by blue team. I just wish Syndra would be lining up her orbs properly. Notice I didn't say balls this time.
Draven is so huge right now with 11 kills and 0 deaths. Oh, good grab. That Blitzcrank, but it's a bit too little too
More Nami alt kills. They're always so beautiful as they just float over your dead corpse.
Purple team's inhibitor has been destroyed.
So unfortunately this game was a little bit one-sided. We will definitely do one more. Do we have one formed, or are we doing just random games? Okay, next game we're just going to do a pickup game then, an in-house.
Good wall by Nivea. Just no mercy.
Okay, so... Ooh, leggy.
That was a very, very, very strong game for blue team.
Yeah, so at this point I'd like to just go over a couple of their mistakes, what they could have done better as far as their style of play, maybe even some champion picks, build order, all that sort of stuff, and just maybe offer some advice for how they could sort of cycle through and make either a more efficient play or to put at least a stop to the blue team domination there. So if you want to just go ahead and comment on some of the builds and the playstyle there.
Okay, so I'm going to start with Lucian Bot actually, because I just spoke to Yonli, who was actually really interested in hearing some of my thoughts on Lucian. Like I said in game, I'm not a big fan of the boots rush on any AD carry, mainly because if your opponent is ahead, you really want to rush that power as soon as you possibly can to try and even out the playing field, essentially. With a support like Blitzcrank, who's able to provide the CC for you, and, you know, catch out your opponent out of position, you can really use that power to your advantage and try to catch up to someone who's really fed like Draven. I feel that rushing the boots hurt you more than it really helped in that case, and you were not even able to buy a BF sword even by the end game, basically, there. So also, not a huge fan of the double Doran's Blade. I know that it is the most gold efficient item in the game, but because Lucian gets such an efficient power spike with the Bloodthirster, I feel that it's just much better to bide your time, buy a few potions, and just really go for that BF rush right away. I don't know if you have anything to say about that.
Yeah, I completely agree. If you are behind and you're building items like Berserker's Greaves, you're building to fall further behind.
Exactly.
You need that power spike to give yourself an opportunity to get back into the game. You built Berserker's Greaves. Okay, well, what happens if Blitz lands a beautiful hook and Aatrox shows up and lands a perfect gank? You're not going to have the damage to follow that up. Whereas you might not have quite as good mobility if you built something else, but you would at least be able to follow up if there was a good play, if you had a way to land some sort of engage that went in your favor. And if you're building defensively like that, you're not going to get back into the game.
It's worth noting, too, that with Lucian's double strike passive, building attack speed out of anything is probably one of the least efficient stats to go for on him.
Yes, and that's why I feel that Berserker's Greaves just aren't worth it. You disagree with me on that, but either way we both agree you do not rush it. It's more for the utility of it, and so the mid-game, after you've built your main damage spike, you need the mobility to pull off that damage spike.
Exactly.
Elise, I like that she went Ninja Tabby, seeing as she was being bullied so heavily. I would have suggested that she build towards a early arm guard. Arm guard is incredibly gold efficient from both AP and armor standpoint, and will build into a late game hourglass, which, again, you didn't have a chance to get to late game, but I think it might have been better. I'm not actually sure what she's building into here. Maybe a Sheen? I wouldn't agree with Sheen on Elise, but...
No, me neither.
That's the only thing those two components built into, though.
I agree with the arms guard suggestion there, because she was facing an 80 champion with Renekton, basically. Also, he was not building health, but he was building some resistance, however, so I think that Haunting Guys is such a good rush item on Elise, because it gives her basically everything that she would want as a character. It gives her some survivability, it gives her some penetration, and it gives her some ability power. Essentially everything she needs to level the playing field with someone like Renekton, who is able to dive her in and out of tower range like that.
Yes. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is the core Elise build not usually Source Boots, Haunting Guys, and then you build right into Rylai's? Or that used to be the core build?
That used to be the core build. I've known some people who prefer to rush Aezryn for those moments where she dives into the enemy team with the spider form.
I agree with that, but I usually believe the initial build is usually early game penetration, a little bit of flat health, a little bit of flat AP, and then you build into something more defensive. Rylai's was the original one that people were building. I do also agree, though, Hourglass, you need that early arm guard to survive lane. I would have maybe suggested an early Haunting Guise, and then finish the arm guard, and then maybe go Source Boots rather than Ninja Tabi. Because that way you still have your early game health and armor, without sacrificing the magic pen that she needs so heavily. I don't agree with double Doran's. I feel that Doran's Ring on Lee's probably not worth it.
No, she does not even have mana issues really starting like level 9 and onwards. So it's a bit overkill to go for that mana regen right away.
Yeah, I agree. Blitzcrank, I had some issues with his gameplay. Just, for example, pulling a Draven into an almost dead AD carry. Great grab, but it's not going to win you a fight. It's going to get your AD carry killed. You need just a little bit better communication there, a little bit better idea of what fights you want, what fights you don't want, and then you need to engage on the fights you do want, disengage the ones you don't. That's just knowledge of the support role as well as how Blitzcrank plays. He also did miss a few rather crucial hooks. That's not anything against him as a player, just that he might want to practice those a little bit if he does want to learn and play Blitzcrank a little bit more. Definitely work on your skill shots. Skill shots are important for pretty much every character. There's some that use no skill shots, but most have at least one. On the flip side, Nami landed some really good bubbles, some good ults. She picked up a few kills, but who cares? She did her job and did it rather well. We also commented early that the blue team had fantastic ward coverage.
Oh yes, across the board. That was not just. I think it was not just Nami. At least I hope not. Otherwise, Nami, my hat to you because I could not. I could not cover a map like that as a support player.
I believe a lot of it was coming from Renekton and Udyr. I could be wrong on that. I don't want to discount Anivia if she was doing it, but Udyr spent so much time in the jungler that I feel that a lot of the deep wards were from him, and Renekton was covering his lane very effectively because he was pushed so far up. So I think a lot of credit goes to them for those very deep wards.
I very much like the aggression on Udyr's part to go for that jungle. However, the point of contention here was a bit the early red buff rush steal for Udyr.
That could have gone a lot better.
It could have gone better, and it could have also gone a lot worse, in the sense that Aatrox could have already taken it, and there could have been enemy map coverage that could have revealed your intent. So it was a hard gamble. You chose well in the end. However, Aatrox could have easily pulled that, turned that around on you and killed you for it, and pretty much reversed maybe the tables for the entire game for your team. Aatrox, however, when he did realize that the Udyr was stealing the red, I think there was a bit of a moment of panic there, because he smited very, very, very early, not even killing the red buff, basically, which allowed Udyr to finish him off and pop his passive. Likewise, when you were bumping around your jungle trying to finish off those red buff minions, after your passive was gone, a much safer route to go would have been to just recall, get your health back, accept that you were set back a little bit, and just continue on safely from there on and support your team afterwards. Like that, Udyr could not have gotten that kill, and maybe not gotten as far ahead as he ended up getting.
Agreed. I also have a comment about early warding. Early warding right now is essential, especially they had a Blitzcrank on their team and they didn't invade. That surprised me. I expected them to try and go in just for a cheesy little pull, whether it's on the buff or on a player. Either way, you get free summoner spells, possibly a kill, possibly a buff, at essentially no risk. You just go in really, really early. That being said, both teams did not ward. Get an early Explorer ward. When you go to lane, drop it on your buff. So whether that was Nami covering the blue team's red buff to watch for a counter invade, whether that was Blitzcrank using an early ward to cover their own red buff, either way, you need to have vision of where their jungler is going and them trying to invade you, whether it's right as the lane starts or a delayed invade. Early wards are just so very powerful. As we already mentioned, I feel that Udyr made a rather large misplay in that invade. He should have sat in the bush, waited for Aatrox to start the red buff, and then killed him. That would have been the safer bet. Because instead he started the red buff. Well, you know Aatrox is coming. You're not going to be able to finish it before Aatrox gets there, unless Aatrox does something really, really strange. So, outside of the early game warding and the risk of going for that early invade, I would still suggest wait for Aatrox to show up, and then dive on him with your really strong early game damage from Tiger Form and Doran's Blade. This might steal the buff, get it either the kill or the passive like he did. It just would have been a safer, more consistent start. Syndra also had some issues with her mechanics with the champion. A lot of that, though, was just Anivia zoning her very, very effectively.
Yeah.
I would suggest, though, she had a lot of issues with just how she was positioning her orbs. She needs to think about 2 to 3 moves in advance to play Syndra effectively. A lot of the jungle chases, she's like, throwing a Q. Okay, well, that Q might hit, but even if it does, you're not going to be able to follow it up with your E for the stun, and you're not then repositioning it with your W for a second hit. I just had a lot of issues with how she was micromanaging her orbs.
I kind of agree with that, but at the same time, for someone who's, I don't know whether or not that Skyrai or Skyrai was new to the character, but Syndra can seem a little bit overwhelming because sometimes you can sort of wait to see how your skills go before needing to weave the other ones in. But with Syndra, I find that you really need to go all in with all her skills immediately to make a good play.
Yes.
At least from my personal experience, that's how I would play it, was not allowing any of my opponents to have a moment to think about what I was doing and just, overwhelm them completely with my positioning.
Yes. I agree with that. I think at this point we may as well just move on to the next game. We're going to do a quick pickup game, so it's not going to be assigned roles. So I suggest you guys